I came to understand that there are other kind of gods than dragon gods. Gods that I actually don't care for. Gods that are so much worshipped, much more than the dragon. Because those gods are asking and even demanding for worship, while the dragon gods never ever demand for worship or even to recognize them. Because the dragon gods are just creators and working together to maintain the life on Earth or the other lights on the universe. Just maintain it all. They are not seeking all for people or other creatures to bow down for them. They are just there, and those who have to know that they are there will eventually know. Most of the time because of their draconic spirit that lives within them, and a dragon god is able to awaken it. And sometimes they do it alongside with the dragons that is by your side. The other gods, for example, this is actually the story of Fafnir or Tiamat. Fafnir, there is also something that I have to say about this. People sometimes ask me, how do you know all this? How do you experience all this? I mean, there is indeed a lot of things that I do and I understand that is not in books or not in mythology or not in history. Things that I came to discover myself, such as in history or maybe in mythology. It is said that Fafnir was actually born as some kind of a human being, a dwarf, that he was even the son of a dwarf king, that he was crazy about this gold, and he even killed his own father and became the dragon later on after a punishment from Odin. And a punishment that he have to guard this treasure for all eternity, until someone, of course, destroys his body. Well, I don't see it this way. I don't feel it this way. Whenever I feel Fafnir, I don't feel someone that is born like a human or a dwarf or whatever, or something humanoid. Whenever I feel Fafnir, whenever I came to understand something from him, I don't feel that he's born like a human being. He doesn't even have the mind of a human being. I believe that he was born as a dragon, that he was being like this, like it was some kind of a punishment from Odin. Well, there was actually no punishment, because Fafnir did nothing wrong. Fafnir was the ultimate guardian, and also the perfect victim for a god that was very much worshipped by an entire continent. Of course, this continent was Scandinavia. I mean, above the continent of Europe, of course. And so they said the tales, of course, also of Fafnir, that Fafnir was indeed a human being, but it was not. Because the dragons were amazing guardians, and that is what Odin needed. Odin needed an amazing guardian, and so he came out with one of the few dragons that were able to create fire. And so Fafnir was a victim of the gods. That is how I see it. That is not how it's written. That is how I feel it. That is how everything should be on the dragon's path. It's not because it's written. It's not because someone in the past that worshipped Odin, that said Fafnir was actually a human being, that I have to feel the same, that I have to think the same. The same story with Tiamat. Tiamat was surrounded by other gods, but she was by far the strongest one. She was even so strong that she could create the seas with her own blood. And that is what I could see also. That is also the reason why I see water upon this earth as her blood, that these rivers are her veins, still maintaining her body inside of the earth. That is how I feel it. That is how I feel it, that she's still alive, that she's still feeding herself, and this with the help of Leviathan, that is now also creating and also guarding the water elements, and also inside of the water elements, helping Tiamat to maintain the earth where she is buried in maintain the earth that she is one with, because this is Tiamat. And she was surrounded by gods, even jealous gods that are worshipped even to this day, because the one that has killed her, I mean, not killed, but destroyed her, the one that has destroyed her now is being seen as Yahweh or Jehovah or other kind of gods that are still worshipped today. Even most of the time in religions that people have a lot of confidence in. And so, of course, these are the gods that demand worship. That is also the reason why he cut Tiamat in two, because of this war that he created against her, against her children, against the serpents and the dragons. That he wanted to have this, all of this, that he can be the hero of all of this. And after the war is done, that he could have all of these prayers and energies after life is being created, not by his own hand, but by the energies of Tiamat, the energies that live upon this earth, that all of the four elements come together as draconic energies. Of course, this is creating life, and of course, these gods are having this credit over it, having this credit, because without them there was no humanity. And so in a way this story changed so much that now he has become the great creator of humanity, and that Tiamat has become the one of the underworld. And that is literally the fact that she is underneath us, still living on. Without her, no life. And so it was all the battle of the gods, you can say, the battle of the gods, because dragon gods and the other gods didn't seem to work together as well. I mean, whenever Fafnir was born, just like another dragon, Fafnir has become touched by divine energies, and so became divine blood. And divine blood means a dragon god. Once the body was gone, he was actually glad to be out of that prison that he was in, because he did nothing wrong. That is what I see, how I feel it. And that is also what you can do. You can feel everything for yourself. If you don't have to follow my stories, that is how I feel it. That is how I experience it. You have to feel your own stories, how you feel it. Maybe you felt them as a dwarf king or something like this, but I didn't. I couldn't. And that is how we should respect each vision of the stories. But each vision of the stories, it's always about the gods versus the dragon gods. I mean, Tiamat, Fafnir, but also Leviathan himself. Leviathan even was becoming the dark half of God in the Old Testament, but it even went before the Old Testament, where Leviathan was the God. So it changed all the time, and has become a dualism between light and dark. And without the dark, humanity doesn't want the dark. So once again, it has become a battle of the gods between Leviathan and the one that has killed Tiamat. Has not really killed. I mean, you cannot kill a god, but she was cut in two and placed upon this earth. Everything that grows was, of course, her energy that was still alive. And so, yeah, I mean, the first time when I came to find out that water, for example, is dragon's blood with the power of Tiamat and the power of Pangu as well as her male counterpart, and also, and as Leviathan, actually you can say this is the responsibility, the water, of three different dragon gods, as how I felt it. I many years ago, I had a dream, a very vivid one. All of the dreams that I have with dragons inside of it, I still remember to this day, and those are quite a lot. And those are all very lively. Like I'm sitting here, just talking to you. And this dream was like, this river was empty, completely empty. And I could see all of the fish dying. And there was one thing that this dream was teaching me, that I cannot stand how living souls are dying. I cannot stand how these souls are screaming in pain. This was one of the first visits that I could see that was not inside of this realm. The sky was much darker, and so there were no humans at all. Just this empty river and the fish dying inside of it. I was crying, I was screaming, even though in real life I shouldn't be this upset, but in this dream I was very much upset. I wanted to save this life inside of these waters. And from behind me came a hand, just like my bracelet, touching my pulses. And so out of my pulses, out of it, I could see blood coming out of it. But I was not in pain. This was not painful. And I could see how this river was filled with my own blood. It was red, all of red, but the fish were saved. The fish found it okay that I filled it with my own blood. And so I was very grateful. And so this was an experience that told me very much that actually the waters are blood. The waters are blood of life. It's energy, life energy from the dragon. And I've of course I didn't find out immediately. I had a couple of months to get through this. Just like everything on the dragon's path, of course, everything is coming eventually. Every answer in the dark. Also, another thing that I came to discover, how do I know such things like this, is once again a vision that I've seen myself hovering over some river like this, looking into a forest like this, but much, much darker. And I was just a few meter before, a few meter on above the ground. I was above the ground for such a meter, but I felt very good. I felt so warm, and so I felt home actually. And then I also, months later, a voice came to me and said this was in fact another place. This was another gate. You went in the middle of this realm and another realm, so that you can follow your own shadows to the dragon realm. And this was once again a gate that you opened up. This was a different dimension. That is why you could see no humans. That is why you could see only the shadows that were following you, the dragon shadows that were following you. And those are the things that you have to learn from. And so I did. I learned from this a lot. And I learned that I should not. That is why I don't talk to you just by reading from a book. I do not read from a book. I read from my own experiences. That is what we all should do, from our own feelings, own experiences, own instincts. That is the story of the dragon's path. And the dragon's path, of course, when I was on the dragon's path for the beginning, I was, of course, seeking for answers. And I had answers, such as that there were people in the past that were that also felt the dragon, that also could speak to the dragon, even into my own country. There were people that spoke to the dragon. So, of course, I had to know that this had a history, of course, but it had a lot of history. But there are also a lot of stories involved into this history. Stories that I don't always agree with, because I feel something different. Sometimes slightly different than the stories are saying. So I don't have to read the Bible to agree with the story. I read my own story. I read my own experience. And that is the most important thing that you can ever do on your dragon's path. That is reading from your own experiences. Whatever you are feeling for them, those are the stories that you have to follow. So my brothers and sisters, be blessed.